Namaskar and welcome back to Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives. In this special weekend when we celebrated the Republic Day of the country, we have a power-packed panel to go into all that the media had tried to highlight during the whole week. Viewers, the military might of the country and its women power was at full display during this very special Republic Day parade that we all have seen this week. So, with India's self-reliance in defense coming out in its full might, is it time that the doubters will call it quits, or will the negative discussion continue further? To discuss this, I have three very special guests with me here this evening. Joining me on the show, Abhinav Pandya, well-known geopolitical strategic affairs analyst, author and the founder of the Ushanas Foundation. You have heard him on Media Scan on earlier occasions. Welcome back, Abhinav Pandya. Also with me, a social activist, a woman who is known to speak her mind, not to mince words on any subject, no matter how difficult. Amber Zaidi, welcome back to Media Scan.
Thank you so much, Smitaji, for having me again on the show.
And with me, a very special guest joining us for the first time on Media Scan this evening, Major General Dhruv Katoch, Director in the India Foundation, well-regarded, highly regarded war veteran and a well-known author too. Welcome, sir. Good evening and great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Smitaji.
And Major General Katoch, straight question to you, sir, right away. Will the Republic Day parade and all that we saw during those 2-3 hours, is it going to put the doubters to rest, or do you expect more questions on the subject of Atmanirbharta in defense?
Thank you, Smitaji. Firstly, let me make it very clear. I think it was an excellent Republic Day parade, and what a pleasure it was to have witnessed it. I think every Indian's chest has swelled with pride. It was carried out with perfection, and I think it has been applauded all across the world. That is one. The way the military might was displayed, I think it was done very well. It is simply a reflection of India's capability in the defense field, starting from space, air capability, naval capability, what our ground forces can do. All of that has come out very, very well in the parade. I have personally seen that over the last 8 years, specifically over the last 8 to 10 years, the great improvement which has taken place in our defense capability. And that has been tremendous, both in the fields of defense production, in policy matters, as also in building of infrastructure. But coming to your question, will it stop the doubters? Will it stop people from talking about it? No, that is not going to happen, because there is a specific toolkit operating in India which wishes to downgrade India for whatever reasons. You see, what is happening today is India is becoming a very important, a powerful economic entity, and it has got military might to back it. Now, there are various forces across the world, both in the Western world and otherwise, are actual competitors and enemies. Now, they don't want that to happen, because once India becomes powerful, we become a threat to them. So you will find these toolkits coming out every time, and they always peak at the time of the Republic Day parade. So that is not going to die down. However, the point is...
allow me a query here.
Yes.
We understand that the doubters may be abroad and they will be doing everything possible to raise questions on this very, very ambitious program that the Prime Minister has undertaken. But how do you look at the doubters within the country who have been writing relentlessly, and I was going through many of those articles. I shall come to you on them one by one. But very quickly, why would an Indian media platform or analysts within the country have so much to question about the Atmanirbharta in defense? Quickly, sir.
Actually, Smita, the problem is not so much outside as inside the country.
Why?
A very large number of these people, they have lost power. They used to roam in the corridors of power. They can no longer do so. And the political parties which have lost power, they are trying to get in touch with the toolkit brigade outside. So that is how it is. This will continue, but because we are doing well, they will be defeated each and every time.
Perfect.
That is the difference
So,
now.
but nevertheless, I shall come to some of the points they have raised, just in case you think there is some merit in some of their, reservations they have expressed. But allow me to bring in Abhinav Pandya here quickly. Abhinav Pandya, as a person who has been observing geopolitical affairs quickly, and not just that, you have been abreast with all the diplomatic developments in the global scenario. Is it true that the doubters on Atmanirbharta or self-reliance are people who are more in number within the country than those outside, and why?
Thank you very much, Smitaji. It's a pleasure once again to be here on this show. And you asked a very interesting question. I'll just begin with one observation. If you look at the doubters, please look at their past track record. These are the same people who raised objections, who raised big, rumors about China conquering miles and miles of territory in India during the Galwan time or in the Tawang time.
They are
And
still
these are the
saying
same
it.
people. Yes, they are still saying. And they are the same people who raised objections about Article 370, about CA, NRC, almost each and everything. So first and foremost, when we talk about these doubters, we have to look at the credibility and the motivations behind what they are doing. Definitely, these doubters inside the country, they are not acting on their own. They are pursuing and they are implementing the agenda of some other extraterritorial agencies which are located beyond the borders. And definitely such nexuses, such linkages have very strongly rooted financial links. The financial part is there. Then there are the elements of, the political power, because there was an ecosystem which survived for 6 decades, 7 decades. They thrived on, running these negotiations and the power deals, earning the brokerages, commissions. So all that is collapsing. And let me appreciate PM Modi's vision here, because see, we all knew about this, glorious idea of indigenization of defense production, but no one touched that. Why? Because there were heavy stakes involved, and people thought that it's too difficult to do that. There were very powerful lobbies. Here, PM Modi is the one person who has taken up this massive gargantuan challenge, and certainly has made enemies around the world because of this.
Let's be
Because it
more
has.
specific,
Yes.
Abhinav. Is it lobbies in the defense sector, in the arms world, or is it lobbies within the media, or is it both?
Well, I must say, see, this defense is also, it constitutes a very big business, across the world, especially
Certainly.
the Western. I'm coming to that. So mostly when these lobbies operate, there are cross-sectoral linkages between the intelligence agencies, media, academia. So there's a whole cabal which includes these different elements, political parties, everything. Suppose, if these lobbies have to, perpetuate or implement their agenda in India, they don't need only the business people. They need the political people on their payrolls. They need the media people, who can just, propagate their agenda. They need the academics who can talk about what they
Okay,
want to do.
I
So
get
it's
the
like a
point. I get the
collaboration.
point, Abhinav, and you have raised some very pertinent questions, so we will come to them also. But can I bring in Amber Zaidi here? Amber Zaidi, what were your first feelings, your first reaction when you saw this totally historic women-led parade on the Kartavya Path?
Smraji, it was so beautiful to watch the entire parade. Me and my mother, we were sitting together and watching the entire Republic Day parade. We sat together for more than 3 hours. And it was such a delight to watch the entire Republic Day parade, the tableaus, displaying the women power, Nari Shakti and women empowerment dominated the entire theme of tableaus of Kerala, especially Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Tripura,
Yes.
at Republic Day. It was such a beautiful feeling, and I was, most of the time I was crying, and it was a कहते क्या खुशी क्या so that was खुशी क्या not that
So
I
you
can
were
say.
you were
It was such a
overwhelmed to see those women.
Exactly. Oh my God, it was such a beautiful feeling to see the rich culture and heritage of the country. Kerala represented the tableau of Nari Shakti and folk traditions of women empowerment. There were multiple themes in different tableaus of states. So it was such a beautiful feeling and and treat to watch, and it was worth sitting for 3 hours. And we could go for endless. I mean, you could sit for days and watch that beautiful parade. And I have just decided next year I'm gonna go and sit there and watch live next year.
Wonderful.
So that was the first
And,
credit, yes.
it's nice to see those women achievers. There's leading a parade, leading the teams in fighter jets, etc. But at the same time,
Absolutely.
I'm sure you notice, like all of us, that we did not focus only on the new age woman power. We showed enough about how India has always given its place to the women. There were,
Absolutely.
whether Tamil Nadu, Kerala, women from the most humble backgrounds have contributed in the
Absolutely,
development
absolutely
of
right.
the society, the nation, whether it is through by saving the environment, by helping poor women deliver their babies, or even, by helping them to educate. Women who were themselves not very educated have gone out and supported women's education. What kind of an inspiration do you think it gives to the women
I
today who have more
It was so
facilities and a better situation, but somehow they are not able to achieve their optimum?
absolutely. As I was talking about the Kerala stabulum, which
Mm.
presented the Nari Shakti folk tradition of women empowerment, that includes Kalira Pachu, as martial art
Yes.
with more than 2000 years history and percussion tribal traditions. Kerala has the highest women's literacy rate in the country, and that has the world's largest women's self-help network also, and that a part of the taboos
So
also. And we could
basically, from
see
from Kalaripayat to fighter jets, I mean, there are very few glass ceilings left
exactly,
that our women have
exactly.
not
There
broken.
were
Amber, I shall come back to you on that, but I want to come to Major General Dhruv Katochia. Sir, I was just reading a statement made by the Minister of State for Defence on the floor of Parliament, and in the latest data that has come, India's imported defence equipment, which were nearly 42%, have now come down to somewhere around 35%. Are you satisfied with the pace of the production in terms when you look at Atmanirbharta, sir? And also, as Abhinav was saying, are there lobbies operating for whom the merits of the argument are not important? It is just that there is a cabal which will not tolerate India becoming self-reliant because it is political. Do you agree?
I agree totally on that. You
Mm.
see, when we are looking at defense, I have always wondered why is it since 1947, when we had a very vibrant defense industry, why
Mm.
didn't we build it up? And
Right.
the question came, the answer was very simple. We didn't build it up because we would get foreign weapons. And once you get foreign weapons and equipment, then there are contractors involved. Payoffs are made. And that was one of the reasons why the indigenous industry did not come up. We did not have a vibrant defense sector, which is now being created. You know, when we have the
Uh,
two defense corridors have come up now, one in Tamil Nadu and one in
Sir,
UP.
sir, for a second. This is very sensitive and important what you are saying. Are you saying that previous governments, successive previous governments, deliberately scuttled or tried to emancipate the industry because there were other players involved? Is that what you are saying?
Absolutely. I've got no
Hmm.
doubts on that. You see, and there is a nexus. You know, even today, when you look at the big players, the complex, which is operating in the United States and in Europe, their
Hmm.
weapons have to be sold and they will do everything in their power. So what these big players would do, they would get at the bureaucrats, they would get at the politicians, and they would also get into your research institutes and scuttle your projects, right?
All
So
right.
it was a
But
very,
that is
it has been
sabotage.
done. Our projects have been. Why is it that we didn't, after the HF-24 aircraft, why did we not continue with aircraft production? The point is, if
Hmm.
you had continued with aircraft production, we would have been a leader in this field. And if you're a leader in this field, then how do you will compete with other fighter jet aircraft manufacturers? You will compete with the people who are manufacturing helicopters, and you will cut into their profits. So it is much so, and when it is done so cleverly, because then they will say, listen, it'll take us so much time to produce our goods. The foreign chaps are giving it much cheaper, etc. But your own industries are dying. And I think now what is happening is this is the sea change which I have seen in the last, since 2014, especially because, in my view, it was the Prime Minister who led it and Manohar Parrikar who started it. You see, Manohar Parrikar, the defense minister, was very, very clear in his mind, and he was backed with the Prime Minister. So we've gone in for a very big way. And there are two policy changes, Smita ji, which I want to tell you about, which
Yes,
are
sir.
very important policy changes. One is the private sector has now been co-opted into defense.
Yes.
Now, this was not done earlier. So unless you get the private sector in, your public sector, it may do anything. It can never give you enough. Now the private
But
players
sir,
have come in.
I have two issues here which have been flagged not only by what we are calling the cabal or the lobbies, but some very well-known experts in the field. I shall come back to you on that. But if I may ask Abhinav Pandya, I'm really at a loss of words. I do not know. Major General Katoch is saying that we may have been, sufferers of a sabotage even. Forget about lobbies operating, because they scuttled our research work, our capabilities, just to keep us dependent on their sales and the industry. Would you agree? And what is your understanding in the field as an expert on geostrategy?
100%. I'm in full agreement with General Katoch. Well, these lobbies have been sabotaging our strategic and defense interests, over the last 70 years, right after the independence it started. I mean, just a very simple question. We can see a stark irony when India could develop its own space program, its own satellite program. Why couldn't we develop our own, aircraft manufacturing program or the weapons manufacturing program? We had the capabilities, and we, during even our nuclear, developments program, we hear of various conspiracy theory in the 1950s and 60s. Various scientists were targeted by the Western agencies because they were involved in, the space development program and the nuclear development program. Even in the recent past, we have come across several cases. I'm deliberately not mentioning the institutions because certainly these are very sensitive matters, but we have come across cases where the foreign entities have tried to steal the blueprints of various sensitive projects. They have tried to penetrate various state-led institutions which deal with the critical infrastructure projects, the critical national security projects. So these elements have been sabotaging for a very, very long time.
And what is your opinion about the situation at present? Are we in a position to defeat them in their own game, or is there still much to be done?
Yes, certainly in the present context. First of all, as I mentioned in the previous statement, that I appreciate and I fully support what PM Modi has in his mind regarding this indigenization. But yes, as far as countering them is concerned, we need to work a lot, because see, talking about indigenization is certainly a glorious idea, but we need a very, very strong infrastructure, which has been deliberately scuttled and deliberately suppressed over the last 70 odd years. So we need to invest heavily.
I will take a quick comment from Major General Dhruv Katoch before I come to Amber Zaidi. Major General Katoch, very quickly, sir, some of the important reservations that have been expressed, they pertain to project delays, if we stress too much on Atmanirbharta. The other is about, the fact that the quality, it's about quality compromise, that the quality of the equipment may not be what we are able to buy when we go purchase, shopping at a global level. Quickly, sir, how much do you agree with these 2-3 arguments? Do you think they have some ground?
You see, the armed forces have always had some issues as far as quality control was concerned. But the point is, why has the quality been compromised? Even in some things as simple as a rifle. I see no reason why that has to be done. But it is a fact that in the armed forces, we have had issues with the public sector issuing equipment to us, which is not of the appropriate quality standard, both in ammunition and in equipment. And that is one of the reasons why, we couldn't even get into exports. But that has changed now. You see, today the policy on exports has changed. This is what I wanted to tell you. Now we will be exporting weapons. And once you export, then there are very high quality control standards. So there were quality issues. But I think, those quality issues could have been addressed, but they were not addressed. And why they were not addressed still remains to be seen.
A point taken, sir, and perhaps that is why we are now moving from being perpetual buyers of defense equipment and arms to sellers. But there was a recent article, a very quick comment on that, sir, before I move on to Amber Zaidi, saying that there was too much noise, a lot of talk about selling equipment, but the fact remains that various countries who are for some reason termed as third world, they have expressed interest in our equipment, but they have not really placed the orders. I mean, how factual is that allegation?
Well, let me put it to you in a slightly different way. Some
Sure.
years ago, I spoke to a very senior, I spoke to one of the former ambassador, the high commissioners of Bangladesh. And I asked him, this was about 6 or 7 years back, I said, why are you buying Chinese weapons and why aren't you buying it from India? And his response was, we would love to buy from India if India would sell to us. Listen, I have absolutely no doubts. If
So,
we
was
open our
there
markets, they will
reluctance
buy.
on the part of our industry, our governments, to give out the message that we are ready to sell?
No, I think the government has to make it very clear. You see, we have already now sold the BrahMos missile. If you
Yes.
can sell the BrahMos missile, take it from me, you can sell anything. Now, that message has to go to industry. You can sell your artillery guns, you can sell your rifles, whatever you're manufacturing, sell them abroad, of course, with the permission of the government, and the government will support you. You give that, our exports will double. We are going to be very, very self-reliant in defense once you open up the export sector.
Right, sir. Point taken. I will come to Amber Zaidi because she has been waiting to join us in the discussion. Amber Zaidi, I remember in one of our shows you have were very kind to join us, and we were discussing about how gullible girls, upcoming ambitious girls have been misled into this entire hijab controversy. We have also in the last 2-3 years seen women coming out when it was, during the anti-CAA protest and several other protests at the social level. Since you belong to the Muslim community, which is certainly going through a conflict of women, trying to come out and achieve their optimum, but other forces trying to bring sort of keep them back. When you saw the parade on the Kartavya Path yesterday, how do you relate these two situations? What do you think was the message, particularly to the girls from families where there are such powers trying to keep them back?
Smitaji, there are anti-India powers who try to destabilize and disrupt the peace in our country. But I think we should take inspiration from women like Narasamma and Tulsi Gowda, Virushka Mate, which we saw yesterday on Karnataka's tableau. And there are, these are the selfless women here who have contributed to the society in a positive and a bigger way. And we should take inspiration from such women, and this also center has honored them with the Padma Shri and the country's fourth highest civilian award for their outstanding contributions. So these are the women who are the inspiration for other women of India, not the women who are sitting outside and blocking roads and doing dharnas and doing chakka jam. They are not inspiration from, I think, for any women of the community or the country. These are the women that we should take inspiration and give back to our society, learning and taking inspiration from women like such. We seen yesterday on
Absolutely. And thank you for putting it so clearly and so well for all our viewers, Amber Zaidi. I think it is time to wind up this very, very interesting discussion in a week when we have all been very proud to see our might parading at the Kartavya Path. We shall come back to all of you very soon in one of the episodes to discuss further on what we have achieved and what remains to be done. Amber Zaidi, thank you for joining us at such a short notice. Also, I want to thank Major General Dhruv Katoch, who was so kind to find time for our discussion, and certainly some of the pertinent questions he has raised has really leaves me at a loss for words. We shall come back to him soon in one of the episodes to understand more about it. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And of course, Abhinav Pandya, always kind to join our show whenever we have requested you. We have got the benefit of your perspective every single time. Thank you again. The military might, the women power that was on display at Kartavya Path in this week could have been achieved perhaps many decades back, is what our experts have told us. But there were more than one reason why India's might was emasculated, kept back and scuttled by powers who did not want us to rise as high as we should. The time has come, but why did it take so long? Think about it. Till then, it's Namaskar from Media Scan. See you next weekend.